Welcome to the Write the Damn Book Already podcast. My name is Elizabeth Lyons. I'm a 5-time author, and I teach people how to write and publish powerful, thought-provoking nonfiction and memoir without overthinking or getting caught up in extreme overwhelm. Because your story and message matter, and it's about to become someone's very favorite resource. For more book writing, publishing, and how the heck do I move through this glitch tips and solutions, and plenty of free resources, visit publishaprofitablebook.com. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Write the Damn Book Already. It is so fun when I get to interview an author twice, and this will be my second interview with Cory Goodrich. I think the first interview is episode 14, if I'm not mistaken. It was titled Book Writing Coincidences You Don't See Coming, or something very close to that. And that episode focused a lot on the insane, literally it's insane, coincidence of my getting to work with Cory, my meeting Cory, my getting to work with Cory on her book, my publishing the book. And you've got to listen to it, because if you're someone who believes in just all the things that are magic, it will reinforce it. And if you're someone who doesn't believe in those things, it seriously might change your mind. It was like that. And the coincidences between Cory and me just keep on coming. So in today's episode, I got to talk to Cory more about the book writing process itself and the surprises that came along the way, the unexpected joys and delights, and also the unexpected hiccups and things that she didn't expect. And now that the book has been out for a while, all the different ways that she is allowing it to make its way into the world without feeling a level of pressure of it doing a certain kind, having a certain kind of success. And the level of trust that she has for the whole process as a creative and as an artist is remarkable and inspiring, and I know you're going to love it. Another thing I want to let you know about really quickly, though, is that Book Writing Made Simple now has monthly co-writing accountability sprints in place. Our first one starts next week, so I'm recording this right now it's Halloween today, actually. And our first one will be November 7th through the 11th of 2022. And what we will be doing in these sprints is for 1 week every month, Monday through Friday, we will be collecting ourselves in a Zoom room, and we'll have 5 minutes of inspiration and goal setting, and then 55 minutes of everyone just putting themselves on mute, turning their cameras off if they choose, and either writing or getting caught up on their trainings or getting clear on their core message, working on their outlines, whatever needs to be done to move the process forward so you can write the damn book already and get it out there. This is a super exciting new feature of Book Writing Made Simple that I am thrilled to introduce this month. So if that sort of accountability and support would feel amazing to you, I would love for you to check out the program. You can do so at publishaprofitablebook.com/write the book. It's a 12-month program. That does not mean that it has to take 12 months to write your book. It just means that you get a full year of support while you are doing it. We have both 6 and 12-month payment plans available, and we would absolutely love to have you join us. So check out publishaprofitablebook.com/write the book. Let me know if you have any questions about whether the program is right for you. We can absolutely talk through it. It is for those who are writing nonfiction and memoir specifically. And again, we would love to have you. So let's get on with my latest interview with the fabulous Cory Goodrich, author of Folksong, A Ballad of Death, Discovery, and DNA. So the last time we chatted, in the last episode, it was so much about just the coincidences of our meeting and coincidences in life and all of that. And so now I want to talk more about the book and your experience writing Folksong. So my first question is really what surprised you the most?
That I had a point of view, which kind of surprised me.
Really?
No, I haven't written like that. So the fact that I was actually coming out with some things that were poetic surprised me, and the connections, I really made the connections in this story as I was writing it. I would sit down to write a section about something that had happened to my mother, and in the present. And then all of a sudden I would think about this other story that happened in the past, and I had no idea how it connected until I wrote it. And then I was like, holy crap, this actually makes sense. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because I'm doing hypnotherapy.
Me too.
Are you really?
Yes.
Get out. Oh, okay. We
I'm
have to talk about
serious.
this.
We do. We totally do. That's so funny because last week I did an Instagram and I was like, all right, here it is, people. I'm on session 4. Today's session 4. And we'll have to have a whole separate conversation about that. Keep going.
Well, you and I are connected in some really weird way.
It's dumb is what it is. I mean, there's no more intelligent word for it than dumb. It's just crazy. Carry on.
But so, it works kind of the same way in that, something will be plaguing me in the present. She'll take me back and say, when did you first feel this? And boom, there it is. And so because of that experience with hypnotherapy, I also think writing is kind of like a form of meditation and a kind of hypnotherapy. And you're kind of connecting these two things. So that was a surprise to me. You were a surprise. That whole story is crazy. But also how much it helped me. Not only helped me personally to deal with all of this stuff, but to know that this book has touched other people and has helped other people. That has given me some solace, because I know that a difficult story to share is something that other people actually do need to hear. So
how did you feel about that during the writing, though? Because you and I connected after you had done the vast majority of the writing. And it's always, air quotes, easy in hindsight to go, oh, it was so worth it to be vulnerable in this moment because all these people have responded so positively. But when you were in it and you were writing about certain more, because it's a vulnerable story, period, but more vulnerable aspects of it that you weren't sure how they would be received, how did you work through that?
It's a great question. Actually, when I was writing it, I didn't know I was writing it for a book. So it was easy for me to be vulnerable because I didn't know if anybody was going to read this or what it was going to be.
Can you say more about that? What do you mean you didn't know you were writing it for a book?
I didn't. I was writing it to preserve my memories, for one thing. I was thinking maybe it would be a one-woman show, which it still may be. I still am going to put this together. But I just didn't know. I didn't think it was possible for me to write a book that people would read. So it was kind of like a journal entry almost for me.
It's so interesting because first time we talked, and I talked about this in the last episode, so I'm going to just gloss over it, but you were like, I'll send you some pages, but I'm real nervous. I'm not a writer. And I got those pages and I thought, are you insane? Like it was so, I mean, if you read my journal entries, I mean, first of all, nobody wants to do that, not even me. But if you read them, you'd think, can you string a sentence together? Like these were so, it was poetry. So the idea that was ever written just for you is really beautiful, frankly.
Thank you. I mean, maybe it was also to honor my mom too, and to honor my many dads, and because I'm an actor, I mean, I say I'm not a writer, but I do know structure. I do know how to tell a story because I'm a songwriter too. So I think once I got the label book writer out of my head, it made total sense to me because that is what I do.
And that's so interesting. Do you think that you had, because you do self-identify as a creative, as an actor, for sure. Do you think that you had some idea in your head of what an author is that you somehow didn't feel like you fit that description?
Yes, I will give you a perfect example. So when I was writing these things, my husband, David, who went to Catholic school and is a stickler for grammar, I would write, and I would, my style, which is kind of stream of consciousness and broken sentences and breaking all the rules of grammar. He would read this and he's like, no, you can't do this, and he would give me the correction. And then I'm like, no, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to speak in my voice. So that the grammar police over here, who he's absolutely correct, and me wanting to do my own thing, made me think, well, maybe this isn't something people could read. Maybe this is just me blubbering on,
And it's,
Um,
that's where like the art and the science come together when it's a creative, you're not writing a dissertation. So,
right.
I'm a stickler for grammar too, but how many times can you say with whom I went to the park before it starts to just sound ridiculous? I mean, we do write so many times, especially when we're writing memoir, but even when we're writing nonfiction, we write the way we talk. And
Right.
so, that's how you create a connection with the reader. And so it can be challenging. And that can happen too if you get and air quotes here too, but wrong editor. Like if you pick an editor who's phenomenal at their craft, but not necessarily for your genre or your voice, where they're like, you cannot end the sentence with the word with. You cannot have a partial sentence in the middle of a paragraph. I have so many partial sentences. I write so many partial sentences. One thing you did in your book that I loved so much is you incorporated your songs, right? Which is tricky to do. And we had to go through permissions and all those sorts of things because songs are probably the most challenging quote or thing to incorporate into a book without permissions.
Right.
But some of them, because that's you're a songwriter. So then the whole CD came off the back end. I mean, and that was one of the things that really excited me is you said, Elizabeth, I want this to be a multifaceted, it's not just the book. There's also going to be a music, like a soundtrack, and which is amazing. And now the painting, can we talk about the brilliance of your paintings?
Oh, thank you. Who knew? I mean, I still go back to that. Like the fact that I didn't pick up a paintbrush until I made this discovery and found out Don was a painter just blows me away. I don't have the same sense of spiritual connection with him anymore that I used to, because I feel like I've finally found my voice instead of his or trying to channel that, but God, it is such a gift. And you think about it, like all the different aspects of art, whether it's visual art or writing or songwriting, all these things connect. And the way that they connect is that everything we do creatively is telling a story in some way. It's just a different way to phrase it or to put it. So,
exactly.
So it feels like the painting feels like an extension for me and not a separate thing.
And I've seen you find your own voice in the painting, especially over the pandemic when theaters were shut down. I mean, you couldn't do anything that you were accustomed to doing professionally. And so I watched, and a lot of other people watched you channel that into there was a real, almost like a shift not in style, but you know what because you started to do these things with all the dots, you know what I'm referring to. Yeah. That I was like, she's coming out. We're watching her like come out into her own, this is me. This is Cory as a painter. Oh. So taking it from Don was also a painter. And so that was a connection that you felt, but then realizing, oh my gosh, wait, I am too in my own way.
Well, if you think about it, when we're children, we do what our parents do. We learn this, we learn this way to live. And then when we graduate high school, as my youngest is about to do, and they go off on their own, then they develop their own lives too. So like the initial painting was me kind of growing up, being a child with my parents, and the pandemic was college, I guess. So.
Yeah, or something. God,
I don't know.
I mean, it was something. But like there are images in the book of some of those first paintings and that you had done that they're beautiful and amazing, and they're completely different from some of the things that you're doing now. So that was so fun to watch. That
was grief. I mean, I was literally painting grief and painting, whereas now it's sort of gone into whimsy a little bit, and sometimes it's anger.
That's such a great point. And there's a feeling, there's an energy, like there is a feeling that is in your paintings, and you could feel the sadness, the weight in some of those earlier paintings that are included in the book. You can feel the weight. and it's a beautiful weight, but it's palpable.
Mhm.
And now I feel like some of your latest works are very light and free.
Although, you know what every single one of those dots is in those paintings, in the multi-dotted, it's anxiety.
For real?
Oh yeah, that was me being obsessive and not being able to control anything. So at least I could control what was on the canvas, all these little teeny tiny.
Oh my gosh.
But they are whimsical too.
Excuse me. Yeah, but that's fascinating because have you ever said that?
I don't think I have. I think you're the first person.
Well, the algorithm screws me over all the time, and I don't see everything I want to see, and I see a lot of stuff I don't want to see, and people would tell me that's my own fault somehow, but I don't think I've ever, I see a lot of your work that goes up, and I don't think I've ever seen you say that these little dots, because I associate that with you now. It's to the point where I see the painting and I know it's your post before I see that it's your post.
Well, social media is not real life. Social media is the life we want to project. So I don't think I really want to say, hey guys, I'm really suffering from anxiety and depression right now. Here's my painting.
Please note the number of dots on this painting and know that means like SOS. That's so let's talk about just for a minute, the marketing and because you've always had such a really relaxed, beautiful perspective on this that I am totally here for. It's just kind of, you post about it when you feel compelled. It goes where it goes, when it goes there. You seem to have, I've always perceived that you have a level of trust. Of course, we have been trying for a while now to get it in the hands of Reese Witherspoon. Your delightful husband created the graphic for us where she was sitting on a park bench holding someone else's book, and David, your husband, photoshopped your book, and it was my screensaver for a while. But you just have this relaxed. Do you feel that way, or sometimes do you feel like, why is this not moving more swiftly?
No, sometimes I feel I'm too lazy. I feel like if I were a better promoter, I would be doing it all the time. But I think it's partially because the creativity itself is what I'm in it for. And I don't mean that I don't want it to sell 1 million copies or make a movie where, Kate Winslet plays me and all that stuff. I do, but yeah, I think it will find the people it needs to find. And I will continue to create other things because that is of a moment. That book was of a moment of my life, and whatever the paintings now are of this moment of my life. As long as I keep creating, that's the goal. It doesn't, it's a hard thing to say because of course we want to sell it and of course we want to share it. But I also feel it's more authentic to me if I don't worry about that. I just worry about what I'm making, the art of it. And like
that, and you just said it perfectly, what I just love about you, because you're not obsessive and you don't make it mean anything about you. You just stay in the moment of what you're passionate about creating.
Well, as an actor too, everything I have done in the past is ephemeral. It's gone. All the work, all the shows that I've done, unless there's like an archival video that's really crappily filmed, so you can't watch it anyway. All of that is in the past and gone, but it doesn't mean the experience for me is gone or for the audience. Oh, I have to tell you this. Okay. So last night, I wrote about it in my Facebook post today. Last night, we did this reading of Sex After 70. I am nowhere near 70. Thank you very much. But
no, no, you are not.
It's a really lovely piece, and it deals with sex after 70 in a comic way, but not a poking fun way. It's very honest and genuine. Anyway, after the reading, this young man, he's 30 something, comes up to me.
Oh, how that changes.
And he's like, oh my God, I have to tell you something. He said, I heard you were in this reading and I had to come. He said, you don't know this, but I was 16 and I saw you in a production of Ragtime. And watching that performance, I knew that it was possible for me to do theater. So you are directly responsible for me being in the theater right now. And I was weepy. I look over, David's got tears running down his face. It was the most beautiful moment. But that was, I don't know, what, 15 years ago or something, like we don't realize who we touch and who we reach. And as artists, you know what? I don't think we need to worry about that. We just need to focus on what it is that we create. So I might not have known that inspired him. There was another guy actually from Hamilton who was in one of the original companies of Hamilton who said the same thing. He saw my CD on a college roommate's desk. He's like, how do you know this woman? So I know it's crazy, but I don't think about that because it's gone.
And I think that's one of the big differences. I was talking to somebody about this last week. The big difference is between the business side of books and the creative side of books, or the business side of, is there a business side of acting? I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's a business side, right, of every creative pursuit. And this isn't to say that one is right and one is wrong. In the book space specifically, sometimes people release a book and they attach themselves so heavily to a bestseller status, to the New York Times list, to a certain number of sales, and to a certain amount of income. And all of those things are used to then define whether or not the book was, air quotes, successful, even though none of the people who bought the book with the 99-cent campaign maybe even ever opened it. And here what you're saying is the exact opposite, which is what I personally live for, which is you'll never know all of the people that your words or your bravery or your courage or your whatever touch. You'll just never know. And I find that actually even more just remarkable. Yeah, and of course it's wonderful when they come up to you later and they're like, hey, for 60, and you think, oh my gosh, I had no idea. But we have to remember that people are absorbing the art. I mean, think about galleries. Like when you have your gallery and people go and they look at your art and they're so moved to go home and start painting, maybe they don't send you a message that says, hey, Cory, I saw your piece and now I'm a painter too, but it still happened. Like it's still happening in the collective experience.
Right. And as an artist, I think all we can do is focus on the work and what we want to create and let all that kind of just be what it is. And I spent many years trying to control everything in theater and I learned I couldn't, so it's a really good point. So when you have an audition, okay, like I have in an hour and I'm freaking out about it, but you have an audition, you can look at it two ways. You can look at it, oh my God, I need this job. Oh my God, I've got to impress these people. Oh, all these things that are completely out of your control. I might be too young, too old, too whatever for this part. I have no control of it. What I do have control over is the fact that I can go do a quote unquote show for the panel, And then when I look at the audition as an opportunity for me to perform rather than I've got to get this job, it completely changes my nerves and all of that. So create, always create.
How do you in that creative space, because you're still human. So how do you, or how have you learned to best manage, be with, process moments of disappointment when things don't go exactly as you hope? You don't get the role, the books don't sell as, whatever it is, whatever it is that you hope doesn't come to fruition. How do you?
Bourbon.
What?
Okay.
Best. You are the best. And a handmade dressing gown. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. That is the most human answer ever. I love you.
I think we just keep going. I give myself a day or whatever to mourn because it is, you do get to mourn that sometimes, but we just keep going forward,
Yeah.
And I think about who is it? Van Gogh, who sold one painting in his lifetime.
I think.
I think it's him. One painting sold. And yet he's one of the most well-known painters in history. So I mean,
well, and
look,
I always think about The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, which sold
mhm.
in its, I mean, first of all, it was completely dumped by its first publisher. Then, the author went basically door to door to publishing houses begging, please take this on. In its first year, it sold 2 copies. This is reportedly, I have both to the same person, because the person bought the first one and lost it and then went and bought it again. And now it's a perennial. I mean, it's not just my opinion, but it's one of the greatest books of all time. And
Yeah,
in its first year, it reportedly sold 2 copies.
and those 2 copies were purchased by his mother.
Yeah, the same person. It may have been his mother, right? 100%. And this is something we talk about all the time, because in the book field, in any field, right? I mean, even as an actor, right? And you're a theater actor, so it's for the most part, right? So it's like, it's 100% theater?
Not 100%. I do TV and stuff too.
I thought so. Okay. So when a theater production opens, especially if you're brand new, this wouldn't be true for you today, but when you're brand new and you're in a really small theater, the whole audience could just be your family and friends. And at some point, you have to make a decision. Do I want it to be bigger than that, or do I not want it to be bigger than that? It's again, no right or wrong, but there's always, if you so choose, someone else to reach. And yet we forget that people like Van Gogh and Paulo Coelho and Brene Brown was at one point selling books out of the trunk of her car in parking lots. Like her first book was self-published. I mean, no one talks about that.
If you have something to say, it will reach the right ears. I do believe that eventually in some way,
I 100% believe that, but I am the most impatient person you'll ever meet. So I'm the poster child for, but when, but how? And that's something that I've worked through. Hypnotherapy has been a good credit to that, but it's something I've worked through. Where does that come from in me? This need to know and to control how it all comes to pass. And being able to be more relaxed in that space of surrender and in that space of trust, it will reach who it needs to reach when they're ready to receive it.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's true of so many things, I discovered through hypnotherapy that I became an actor because I didn't get enough love in my childhood. No, that's a line from Chorus Line, but no, seriously. But a lot of, when we analyze when in hypnotherapy, it's like, well, what did you lack in your childhood? Well, it was, I couldn't say how I really felt, or, so I'm literally acting out on stage now when I couldn't act out in my personal life. So it's pretty fascinating,
It's fascinating, and it's interesting to think about it from the perspective of, then can you have gratitude for the lack, because it took you to this. Right. I don't know that even I've fully formed an answer with which I'm completely comfortable yet on that.
Right.
For myself, but
okay, this is going to be all about musical theater. So I'm auditioning tomorrow for Fraulein Schneider in Cabaret. And she has this great song called So What? And she talks about all the things. I used to be rich and now I'm scrubbing floors. So what? Life goes on, whether we're rich or poor, or it just goes on. So we have to not say, oh, I'm so glad this trauma happened to me in the past, but it did, and you can't change it. So what? You have to make your life right now as it is with whatever you're given, because what I've learned through this book anyway is I cannot change the past. No matter how much I want to, I will never meet my father. I will never be able to ask my mother these questions. So what? I'm here. I have a great brother. I have whatever, this is just what happens. So,
and I think there is such a big difference. I can't remember where I was talking about this, but there's such a big difference between, it might've been in another podcast episode, but tying everything together and saying, oh, this happens for a reason, this happened for a reason, and therefore feeling like we should somehow be grateful for or accept the trauma. Some things just happen, and can look at them and say, well, this created an opportunity to, like, we can have gratitude for the way we choose to respond, or the way we
Right.
choose to see it, or, the way that we choose to see the opportunities that present themselves, maybe as a result, but not as though it's been divinely orchestrated in this way, like this had to happen to you. Because that, to me, is a very, that's the mark of a not benevolent universe. I don't believe that we have this higher power that says, well, this horrible thing has to happen to you in order for you to have this other thing. I just can't, I can't get there. I don't want to get there. If I'm being honest, I probably could get there, but I don't want to. So I think it's, it's more in how we choose to say what you just said. This happened, so what? And it's literally like a question. It's not a so what, who cares? It's so what, like now what? So now what? Right? And so what? I love that. I love that.
I always say, so people say things happen for a reason. I don't believe that things happen for a reason. I think we put reason to things that happen because we want to organize. Our brains want to make sense of it. But you can choose what it is that you take away from that thing.
And we see people do it all the time in both directions.
Yeah.
So I've seen people, the most ridiculous things will happen in a day. There's no coffee, the coffee spills, and it's like, oh my God, the universe hates me. And on the flip side, you spill coffee and you go, and again, this is making it almost trite, and I don't mean it in this way, but just for a very simplistic analogy, it's like you spill the coffee and you think, well, actually now I get to wear the pink shirt and not the, it's what do we make it? How do we choose to take the stuff and bring it through? And I mean, your book was, it's a tough topic. And I've worked with other authors who are writing about tough topics. And it's interesting to observe themselves making a different meaning, making different sense, and not needing to assign, to your point, like well, this happened because, or assigning a choice to something, not having to tie it all together in that way.
Well, everything has a bunch of different sides. So if I apply this to my own story, my own mother, you'll have people who are saying, oh, she was bad word, loose, whatever. You have other people saying, oh no, she was so benevolent and she took you away from this and she protected you. And there are these two sides, which is true. Well, people are round. So there is this side and there is this side and there's this side over. You can't see what I'm doing, but the people listening, but it's a ball. It's not a piece of paper,
It can
and even a piece of paper, there's a little narrow other thing. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
I know exactly what you're saying, which is it can all be true. And I think that one of the things that is challenging when you're a creative person, and specifically in the writing space, is that lots of times people are in what I call a proving energy. So it's hard to hear, oh, well, that person was bad or that person was good, or right. It's like, why can't it can all be true?
Yeah. Everybody. I mean, oh God, this is another terrible story. So I was, well, everything is theater. So I'm sorry if, you're not theater savvy, then you won't know what the hell I'm talking about. So I played Evita when I was in Michigan one time, and Evita, wife of a dictator of Argentina. You really can't say too many good things about what happened with that, except that she is still revered in South America. So when I did an interview on public radio, I think, while I was doing it, and I was playing the character. So I had to believe that all these things she made for personal reasons, and everybody tries to do the best they can, so I went on public radio saying, no, I think, yeah, she was really good. And this happened. And she gave money to these people. And I look back at that now going, oh my God, what did people think of when they heard it? But it was true for her, whether she made good choices or bad choices. she still thought they were the best choices for her. And I think that's
Right.
true of all of us,
Oh, absolutely. And you are just embodying the person. You have to play her from,
Mhm.
you can't play her from the perspective of somebody who thinks she's a horrible person.
No, because I
Not
don't
gonna
think
work.
people are evil inherently. I
Right.
think people think they do evil things and don't realize it, but they're justified in their mind for what they
And
do.
that's why in the book space, and you did this like so really so beautifully, is it was really a love letter. I mean, there were a lot of people in this story who, if you wanted to, and you never did, but if you wanted to, you could have made them out to be not good.
Mm-hmm.
And, or you could have not necessarily made them out to be not good, but you could have focused on choices and things and painted them, no pun intended, in such a way that was not good. But this was a love story that you were writing. This was in honor of your faith and trust and belief that people were all doing what they thought was the best thing to do out from a place of love. And you were at a point where you could see that. It's so challenging when you're writing about other people's role in your story and their role wasn't awesome, to try to insert yourself into their brain and suggest why they did something. And it's usually because you come up with this idea that they're a bad, evil person or whatever. And it's not fair. And that's where people get into these tangled webs of trouble, because now they're starting to psychoanalyze someone else's intentions.
And you can't.
Right. Yeah. And it's from the actor standpoint, we hear often about just like random actors from even funny TV shows who get yelled at on the street because people have come to see them as that character.
Right.
And they don't even recognize, like, this is just a part they play. They're a very lovely person.
Well, and that's who we are as human beings too. We put on different suits of clothes and we are different people. I'm a different person to my children than I am to a stranger on the street or my husband or whatever. We all have capacity for a million different choices and personalities and interactions. And ultimately we do our best. Yeah. Even if it sucks, even if the outcome sucks. There was a reason. I just said I don't believe in reason, but there are reasons that people act certain ways.
Yes. I mean, that's like the saying, you never know what someone else is going through.
Yeah. Until you've walked a mile in her shoes.
And even if you were to walk a mile in his or her shoes, you may not experience it in quite the same way. Right. So it's just, what platform are you most active on? Would you say Facebook or Instagram?
It's switching over to Instagram right now. I do still Facebook. I can't do TikTok. Oh God, don't ask me to do TikTok.
I won't ask you to do anything. You know me. Well, I'll link up everything. God, you're the best.
Everybody are the best.
Go out and get themselves a copy of the book, the CD, a painting, and buy tickets to Sex After 70, because come on. We all be having it.
Oh, may this show actually happen, because it's great. Well, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about sex and sexuality after a certain age, but this whole play was based on the fact that the highest rate of STDs was in nursing homes, because they're getting it on. And what else do you have to do before you die, right? Go for it.
What else do you have to do before you die?
You do realize this is my next book. It's all going to be about sex. So.
Are you kidding me?
No, I think it is, actually.
This is the greatest news I've gotten all year. Oh my God. And that was a question I had actually at the beginning was, are you going to do another book?
I really, like, part of me thinks this was my book. This was my story, that's it. But, I'm a creative, and I'm sure something will come out, and I go in ebbs and flows of what interests me. So I just have to wait till I get back to the writing cycle, Well,
I can't wait till that happens. Let me tell you what.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, this is your friendly reminder to follow or subscribe, leave a quick review, and share it with someone you know has a great story or message, but isn't sure what to do next. Also, remember to check out publishaprofitablebook.com for book writing resources and tips, and to see all the ways we can work together to get your book out into the world. Again, thanks so much for listening. and I'll talk with you again soon.